Okay, zoning board, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines will remain off. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals work session for June 13th, 2023. We'll jump right into it. We have some post-hearing decisions this evening. The first one I'll read into the record, and it is Robert Palma at 45 Seaview Avenue in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-51-1 dash something.
I'm sorry.
There's a number missing on that one too.
Okay.
3.2.
The size and location is 17,681 square feet at 45 Seaview Avenue in Surfside Estates, Block 351, Lot 6, and part of Lot 5, map number 1690 in Montauk. The description is to construct a 751 square foot two-story addition with 480 square foot swimming pool and hot tub, 475 square foot pool patio, 168 square foot pool house with outdoor shower, pool equipment, fire pit area, fencing, relocated AC unit, new cellar entrance, altered driveway, and an upgrade sanitary within jurisdiction of setbacks of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the town code, and 4 variances are required for this application. Variances of 34 feet, 22 feet, 18.2 feet, and 6 feet are required from 255-430 of the town code to construct the fencing 66 feet, fire pit 78 feet, additions 81.8 feet, and AC unit 94 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, zone X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And whose
This is mine.
application? Ed, you want to lead us?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board will remember that the hearing was held on May 2nd, 2023. We were working from a survey that was dated January 21st, 2022. The applicant's representative was Joel Halsey. As was mentioned by the chair, there was request was an NRSP and 4 variances. The existing house on this parcel is 1,815 square feet. They're looking to add 751 square feet, and it'll grow to 2,566. The proposed addition, which now requires a wetlands variance, is similar to one that was part of a 2009 administrative approval. It appears that the wetlands at that time were not extensive enough to require a variance, and that work that was proposed was at least 100 feet away from wetlands. The variance required for moving of the air conditioning unit and the moving of the air conditioning unit is minor. It requires moving it from alongside the house out about 6 feet away. And the slope of the parcel in that area is towards the road and away from the wetlands. It means it's a new location of the unit, should have little or no effect on the wetlands. Variances were also required for a fire pit and fencing on the southwest of the house, and both are set in previously disturbed areas. And given the slope of the property towards the east, they too would appear to have little long-term effect on the closest wetlands. The applicant has proposed to revegetate to the east and south on the parcel, and a new IAOWTS sanitary system is planned for east of the residence in an area which is currently part of the existing driveway. The owner of the parcel, Nikki Palmer, spoke and stated that she and her husband would have liked to have built in 2009 when they had their administrative approval, but were unable to at that time. They're now proposing to move forward with this similar project. When we discussed this, we had a number of potential options. One was to ask them to build to the west, which would be further from the wetlands, and it would mean in an area where they're now planning for the pool to go. We also questioned a little bit about the fence and the fire pit, but they were in disturbed areas. What they offered for the mitigation, as I've mentioned, was a sanitary system, which we would want to see, and some revegetation. One of the factors when you visit the site is that the lot does slope down to the road and away from the wetlands, so that this work is not necessarily, although it requires a variance, is not as sensitive as it might be in some other locations, some other places. Just the pool fence, yeah, pool fence. Looking at the standards, I went through at 255-8-50. of the town code, whether the grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, I said no. On C, whether the requested area variance is substantial, I didn't think that it was, given what they're looking to accomplish. Whether the grant of the variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical environment, environmental conditions in the neighborhood, or affected or in the affected area of the town. And I said no to that. Under 255-5-51 town code, that was, those, by the way, were previous were, this is the, I'm sorry, this is NRSP standards, 255-5-51. Preservation of natural resources. All structures and uses other than coastal structures shall be located in upland and shall be located so that the natural resources feature a system designed in 255-412 hereby will not be diminished in size, polluted, or degraded. I felt that yes, that they did reach that standard. In order to establish a structure, is there an adequate upland area for the structure or use property and minimal exceptions to requirements of the section be authorized by the permit? And I said that there was not another location. Then under alternative reasonable uses for the property, whether they determined to exist, there are other ones, but I thought the inconvenience to the owner and the property owner and the fact that this was previously approved by this board or a former previous board in 2009 weighed in their favor. And whether alternative designs entailing smaller buildings and structures or reduced yard setbacks could have been recommended at that time. I thought that this was a minimum amount of additional work given what they were hoping to accomplish. And then under the general standards 255-540 of the town code, specifically compatibility, the site of the proposal use is suitable for the location of such and if the site's location is proposal will in fact be compatible. I said yes, it is compatible with the surrounding area. And whether or not the environmental protection has been natural characteristics of the site that by this proposed action will be protected. And I felt yes there. So overall, I felt that this was a fairly straightforward request. What we get back, meaning the town in mitigation, is some additional planting. And it was pointed out by the town planner, there was not a lot that could be done on the north side, which is the closest to the wetlands. There's not much room there, and that's where the parcel slopes most dramatically to the road. But they are going to do some revegetation in a couple of other areas, and we do get the IA system. So all of this in consideration, I'm willing to approve this application.
Thank you. Joan? Oh, we should go to Terry.
No.
Go to Joan first. Joan?
I don't really have anything to add except to echo that I did feel that because of the ZBA 2009 decision where the addition and AC unit being moved and cellar door was approved, and as there was testimony that it was part of the original vision of the architect, that even though there might have been well, two things, because it was approved and it's a small variance, they've been hurt by the serendipity of having wetlands grow. I felt that they shouldn't necessarily be penalized by putting in this addition, because the alternatives to the addition would have meant reconfiguring the interior of the house a lot, which would have been a hardship for them. And the other thing I wanted to note is that according to the planning department, the fencing, which although it's a substantial variance, is going to have minimal impact because it's already in a cleared area, and as Member Johan said, is on a sloped area. And the fire pit is also in a disturbed area. And I think the mitigation compensates for everything else.
Thank you. Joan, Terry?
Okay, I have a little bit different take on it. I agree that I do think that it meets the standards for the variances for the addition and the AC unit also, since that was approved in 2009. And I think it's good that they are putting in an IAOWTS system. However, I'm bothered a bit about the pool and the pool house and the fire pit and fencing. I think for the fire pit and the fencing, there are alternatives. The pool bothers me. That was not approved in 2009. It was not on the project. And they are putting in an IA system. However, they're adding a bedroom also to the house. A lot less enthused about the pool. I think that and the fencing for it and the fire pit can all be improved upon. And I agree that with the additions, for the additions and the AC unit, but I think I do not think that the pool and the pool house meet the natural resource standards of 255. I think there are some alternatives, and I think for the fire pit clearly could be moved further from the wetlands, and the fencing also can be improved upon. So I'm going to deny the fencing and the fire pit and the pool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The wetlands located to the southwest have expanded since last flagged in 2009, now making the proposed addition within setbacks requiring a variance. I think we're learning through past projects that one of which was actually recently denied is that increased overdevelopment in some areas has contributed to the change in the boundaries of the wetland in this area. So one of the NRSP standards is in 255-551 is preservation of natural resources, which in this case is the wetlands. D1 says alternative uses of the property are determined not to exist. But in this case, an alternative could have been thought through to eliminate the need for a variance, that being the most obvious location would be to the south of the existing residence rather than to the west, but that's where the pool and patio are, so they couldn't do that. And alternative designs in alternative designs, D2. In 255-540, environmental protection, the natural characteristics of the site are such that the proposed use may be introduced without undue disturbance of the disruption of natural features. I think the big problem I have with this application is I think the project was designed around the pool. And again, the swimming pool could be relocated so that additions could be in a more conforming location and better meet NRSP and variance standards. So for that reason, I am denying the, I guess I would also be denying the addition because it could be in a more conforming location, and the pool and associated structures. The fire pit is located in the middle of an already cleared area. The fencing is located along the edge of the existing clearing line. AC unit, these are all minimal impacts. New IA is fine with that improvement to the site. And the new cellar entrance I'm fine with. But I do think more thought, as I have said, could have been put into I think this project was built around having a swimming pool. And in this case, an alternative location could have been thought through to eliminate the need for a variance for the addition. So for those reasons, I'm denying that part of the application.
Thank you. I'm going to agree with the approval part of this side of this application. You got to remember, this is in 2009, this was an administrative application. The wetlands weren't there, and I agree with member McGivern's assessment that, I agree that the wetlands have grown, and the testimony has been because of maybe some other development. But I don't think that this applicant who has approved an administrative application should be denied this application. The pool and the pool house are outside are beyond the setbacks of the wetlands. There are no variances requested for the pool or pool house. So with that, I'm going to approve this application as it stands, with the same reasons of going through the standards as my fellow board members. Vice Chair. Are we good, council?
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Peter Joyce, 10 Fall Street in Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-28-5-8. The size and location is 24,124.81 square feet, 10 Fall Street in Montauk Beach Development Corp., subdivision number 3, East Fort Pond Residential Section, Block 56, Lot 14, map number 1013, map in Montauk. This description is to allow the existing swimming pool, pool patio, pool equipment, fencing, deer grate, planters, retaining walls, generator, and clearing to remain within jurisdiction and setbacks of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the Town Code, and 3 variances are required for this application. Variances of 58.1 feet, 25 feet, and 18.6 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to allow the existing deer grate to remain 41.9 feet, fencing to remain 75 feet, and planters to remain 81.4 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, zone X flood zone, and its secret class is type 2. And whose application
No,
is
this
this?
was mine.
All right, Terry?
So this, the hearing date for this was on May 2nd, 2023. The agent for this was Joe Halsey, but Andy Hammer basically gave the presentation on this. The lot size for this property is 24,128.81 feet. The survey that we had at the hearing is James Walsh, dated 1/19/2022. This is for an NRSP. Now, this was first for me. There was a pool, all the structures in this application had been put in without permits. The pool patio, the pool equipment, retaining walls, generator, about the deer grate for sure, but the fencing and the planters. There was a C of O from 2017 that I believe did or did not show, they did not show those structures, Tyler? Yeah, did not show those structures. So this was the first, as I said, it's complete and a pool. And as was testified by the agent at the hearing, the applicant happens to be a contractor in Montauk and does pool services. So it was pretty surprising, to say the least, that no permits had been done for any of this. Now, all that said, they were looking, obviously, for the forgiveness and having us put this in. And ultimately, I am going to be approving this. Some of the reasons, as Andy Hammer had stated, that they were agreeable to adding to the scenic easement, bringing it up to the clearing line that exists on the property, which brings it right up to the fence line, where one of the fences that requires the variance of 25 feet. That fence, if you recall from the hearing and the pictures, is actually a garden fence. It's 4 squared, and there's actually blueberry and some other plants that are inside that fencing. And next to that, where the planters are, it's a similar type situation. They're raised planters, and they're also garden plants and things that are growing in there. The big thing, one of the things that was stated at the hearing, we were concerned about, installing a pool. And Andy Hammer did state that this is a fiberglass pool that was just placed on top of gravel and placed in that place, and then the walls and the patio built around it. And the generator also, all of that. But those are out of variance range for the pool and the wall and the pool patio. So I do feel that if they came in front of us today, perhaps for this project, that we would have approved it, or may have
With the
approved it.
mitigation.
With the mitigation,
Yeah.
yeah. So I am going to approve it. I think there are no environmental negatives on this. It's such that that would provide any issue. The scenic easement, we will have them bring it up to the clearing line. One thing regarding the additional scenic easement would be the driveway, because the driveway to the house goes through this scenic easement area. So however we want to handle it, if this is approved by everyone, I say we bring up the scenic easement up to the driveway line and then allow that to end there. But
To the edge of clearing.
To the edge of,
Right.
yeah, the edge of clearing line, as you can
And
see
then to
on
the
here,
driveway.
goes across,
Mhm.
but goes down.
In other words, the driveway doesn't need to
Another
be
30
within.
feet,
Driveway
exactly.
would be within it.
That's futile.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so I am going to approve this application.
Ed, you want to go?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to agree with my fellow board member. I have many of the same observations. I think it's, there's a lot went on there, and it shouldn't have gotten the way it did, but we're only looking for variances for the planter, the deer grate, and the fencing here, and of course the NRSP. The planters, let's start with the deer grate. The deer grate, as was pointed out during the hearing by the chair, also functions as a bit of a catch basin because of the way it's done. It's a very large commercial one that would have been used under an industrial application. So it's got some substance to it. And then the planters and the fencing was pointed out in the TAM that likely to have, it was the deer grate is constructed likely to have a minimal additional impact on runoff, and that the raised garden beds would have minimal impact. It did point out that there are the locations, more conforming locations, and I think this is a significant amount of work that went on. But the logic that was used by Member Berger, that if they did come in front of us looking for what we see in place, and we were to get the mitigation of the additional easement, then these three particular variances they're looking for, I think we would have approved. That would be the way I would look at it. Sometimes people come looking for forgiveness for something that we would have never approved initially, and I think that if this had been presented properly. However, I do think there's a certain caution here about getting this amount of work done without coming in front of the board, without coming in front of the building department, and that should be mentioned. But ultimately, I am going to agree to approve this application.
Thank you. Denise?
Yes, the swimming pool, stone patio, retaining walls, and generator are all within NRSP jurisdiction of wetlands, but meet their required setbacks from property lines as well as setbacks to wetlands. I agree with my fellow board members. The question now before us is what would we have done if it did come before us? And I do feel we would have approved it with the mitigation that's already been stated. I agree with the scenic easement being, which covers on the west side, 40 foot of the lot should be extended another 30 feet to extend up to the edge of clearing. I think that the swimming pool, patio, retaining walls and generators are in compliance with 255-551 and 255-540. And the deer grate, fencing, and planters are in compliance with 255-850 of the town code, and I approve this application.
Thank you. Joe?
I just have a few little points to add. The comment was made that they were almost doubling the scenic easement. I don't know if that's correct, Tyler, but I found
Not
that
really.
persuasive. And
It's more than, I would say 75% or more. Yeah, it would probably be a fair assessment.
okay, so the fact that they were increasing it by 75% was persuasive. I also felt that it wasn't just a pool that involved a lot of digging and impact to the wetlands, because they just rested this fiberglass, basically a large bathtub on top of gravel. And there was also testimony that the stone walls were built by hand and didn't interact with the wetlands, which I thought was interesting. And I think this was already mentioned, but that the deer grate, even though the variance is somewhat substantial, it doesn't impact on the wetlands. And I think as member Johan commented, that it actually acts as a catch basin. So it might actually help. I think that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. I also agree with my board members. The only maybe umbrage I will take is that I think a pool is a pool is a pool. I don't think that, I mean, even a 6x6 spa, whether it's above grade or in grade, I don't think it should be from the way our code looks at it, it's a swimming pool. So with that, but that doesn't have any bearing. I agree with the approval of the decision that we're making. I just don't think that we should differentiate what pools are. So I'd make a decision based on that. So that's the only comment I have. But other than that, I agree. Thank you. Next is David Sullivan at 8 Bendigo Road, Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-152-1, that's 11.2. This size and location is 139,720 square feet at 8 Bendigo Road, Amagansett. The description is to allow an existing 36 square foot shed, a 220 square foot or 55 linear feet of walkway to remain, and to relocate 32 square foot of generator on a parcel of land containing dunes, beach vegetation, and wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420, and two variances from 255-430 minimum wetland setbacks are required. Variances of 15 feet and 56.8 feet are required to relocate the generator 85 feet and allow the existing shed to remain 43.2 feet from wetlands where 100 foot is required. Any other relief necessary from East Hampton Town Code. The zoning district is A5, residence AE flood zone, elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2. And I believe this is in member McGivern's.
The hearing and the hearing was held on May 2nd, and the record was also closed on May 2nd. The survey we were looking at was Saskis's survey dated December 21st, 2022. Andy Hammer presented for the applicant. He gave a little history on the property, which is that it was one of 4 lots created from the Gardner's Bay Company, 1975 division. This property is 11.5 acres of high quality. The high quality wetlands cover about 7.4 acres, and there's a 7.74 acre scenic easement. I visited the property, and I would say that they were fairly good stewards of the land in the sense that they have left it alone and haven't really done any significant planting of any kind. They have walkways to avoid disrupting the dunes and dune vegetation. Additional wetlands were recently identified in late 2022, which affects the shed that they're seeking a variance for. This originally came before the ZBA in 2000 for the residence, which they built. So with respect to the walkway that's already built, again, having been at the property, I can see why the walkway was put in place, because if it actually wasn't there running close to the house, you'd land up walking there and destroying the dune vegetation all around it. So at least it confines where one is walking. I don't know how else to say that. And it's in an area that was originally disturbed by the original construction. The generator, I'm going to approve because I think, as the building department pointed out, it's within the original building envelope, and that was approved. I'm not clear on this, but it seemed like the building envelope was approved as part of the 2000 ZBA approval for the residents. In any event, it's already within an area disturbed by the original construction, and it's going to be smaller than the generator that's there. The shed could admittedly be moved to a more conforming location. The planning department suggested that it be placed north of the driveway, and it's a pretty significant variance. On the other hand, the shed has been there for 15 years, and when it was originally placed there, two things. The owner didn't think he needed a permit for a shed, and second, it wasn't within wetland jurisdiction. It's on anchored posts to the ground, so my thought is that it'll create more disruption if it's moved at this point, even though it's within jurisdiction of new wetlands. So I'm inclined to approve it because it's been there for 15 years, and I think there'd be more damage to wetlands by moving it at this point. It sits right along the driveway, and I can see how it's convenient to access from the driveway, which is a disrupted area by itself. And otherwise, it was a very pristine, beautiful piece of property. So I'm going to go through the standards. As far as preservation of natural resources, they've done a good job. There might be alternative reasonable uses, or reasonable alternative designs for the shed, but as I said, I think it'll be more disruptive to move it. As far as 255-850 is concerned, whether the grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, detriment to nearby properties, no. It's 11.5 acres, you can barely see the neighbors. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some other method, I think not, except for the shed, which I qualified for the reasons I said. And although it's a self-created, I don't think that's a bar to granting the variance. So I'm going to approve the application.
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to agree largely with what Member McGivern said. I think it was well put. There were several aspects of examining this that were important. The most important is that this is 11.5 acres of absolutely beautiful property. Whether all of it could have at one time been preserved is not a factor here. The fact is there is a house that was approved in 2000 and it exists there. I think that the condition of the property shows that the current ownership have been good stewards of the property, and that weighed heavily on my mind, the same way it did, I think, for Member McGovern, in considering what was being asked for. Now, the shed and the walkway and the generator were all issues, but I think the walkway is in a disturbed area. I like what Member McGivern said about the fact that it concentrates the walking in one place and we're not wandering out and doing other damage to Duneland. The generator move is still within the original building envelope. That was testified they were moving it for noise reasons and that it would move it slightly further away from areas there that they recreate. I think that the shed is the one that jumps out as whether or not something should be done with it. But I am going to agree again with Member McGivern that when I looked at it, the fact that the area around it is not trod, disturbed, there's not piles of other material, it's not being used in a way that is incompatible with why it was placed there. It was placed at a time when it would have been legal. They're coming in front of us now when it's not, but at one point it would have been 200 feet away. That wetlands, like many, have grown, and that puts that into play with us right now. I think lifting it and putting it somewhere else is disturbing somewhere else on the property. It exists, and it seems to be handled very well by the current ownership. So all the same reasons basically that were used here, I thought that this was an application that was not excessive, and I thought that what we were seeing happening on the site was that this property, which is a magnificent piece, is being well cared for. So I'm willing to approve this application.
Thank you. Denise?
Yes, thank you. The freshwater wetlands on this property are comprised of roughly 7 acres, and it's one of the most diverse in the entire town. For construction of the house in 1999, wetlands were delineated. When the planning department revisited in 2022, there were 3 additional wetlands on the property. The shed was constructed without a permit, and the owner didn't realize a natural resource special permit or variances were required. The applicant had the choice to relocate the shed and chose not to. I think on an 11-acre lot, the shed could be easily put in a more conforming location, which according to the TAM would be relocated north of the existing driveway in an area which is currently cleared. I do not think that approving the shed meets the standards for a variance because this certainly was self-created, and it can be achieved by another method. There is another more compatible location for this shed to keep it in keeping with the standards in our town code. The generator location will not have any negative impacts, and the existing walkway is already in a cleared area north of the residence. I'm denying the 56.8-foot variance because it is not the minimum variance necessary, and the variance to allow the existing shed to remain in its current location. I do not feel it's in compliance with 255-551, Section D, preservation of natural resources, and 1 and 2. And again, it's very excessive in terms of a 56.8-foot variance is huge, and it can be achieved by other methods, and it was self-created. So I'm denying that portion of the application.
Thank you.
Okay. I agree about the walkway with my fellow board members. I too feel that the shed needs to be moved. I think, as already stated by Member Savarese, it's not the minimum variance necessary. There are alternative locations. And as mentioned in the TAM, it recommends that they move the shed to the north side of the driveway that exists and put in the cleared area up there near the principal building envelope that had been approved when the subdivision went in. And I think it's important that the location, respects the building envelope. I feel that the 255-551 alternative reasonable uses are determined to exist. So the shed, I am denying that the shed be allowed to remain where it is. And on the generator, also in the TAM, the generator's not moving far. I'm kind of, but they said if it just remains where it is, it's actually less of a variance to the wetlands than if they moved it to where they're proposing to move it a few feet. Looks like a few feet. But, I'm kind of in, why not leave it exactly where it is and not move the generator? So I guess I'm denying the generator also. And I don't see moving it closer to the wetlands than it is now, if that's not necessary.
Thank you. When I look at properties like this, and its pristine nature is one of the reasons why we have an NRSP standard to begin with. It's absolutely beautiful. It's incredible. Regarding the application, I agree with the walkway. I agree with the generator. I think the old generator is as was stated, was an old generator, might have been diesel or something like that. So I think the new location, the new generator is going to be better off in the location. It's smaller. I was vacillating on the shed. I think, as stated, they said they could easily move it. I think denying it is not the way to go. I think that if it was going to be removed, I think it should be stated where to move it, so they don't have to come back to this board to move it. So I think that I think with reasons that the vice chair and Joan, I think that it is not, the fact that it's been there 15 years or so, it also is under the size of requiring a building permit. The 10 by 10 a shed requires a building permit. So I can understand why it's there. I can understand that the fact that the wetlands grew. I'm going to allow the shed to move, to remain there. I think it's a de minimis impact on this huge property that's been well maintained. Are we okay, council?
Yes.
Thank you. Farrow Beach, we're going to postpone till next week decision. We're going to, next application is Stephanie Bauer at 65 Wyandanch Lane in Amagansett, Suffolk, tax map number 300-176-6-2. The size and location is 8,000 square feet at 65 Wyandanch Lane, Beach, Hampton, section number 1, block 14, lots 71 through 74, map number 1203 in Amagansett. The description is to remove existing decking and shed, construct a 234 square foot, 1-story addition with decking, reconstruct existing decking, construct an outdoor shower, allow a driveway expansion to remain, replace windows and doors, make interior alterations, and upgrade a sanitary system within setbacks of jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the town code, and 3 variances are required for this application. Variances of 54 feet, 34 feet, and 33 feet from 255-430 of the town code are required to construct the decking 46 feet, addition 66 feet, and outdoor shower 67 feet respectively from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is B residence, AE flood zone, elevation 10, and the secret class is type 2. Member McGivern.
The hearing was held on April 18th, and the record was left open till May 24th, when the applicant submitted an updated survey by Scalise, I think I'm saying that right, land surveying, which was stamped received on May 24th, 2022. The designs or the architectural plans were done by Montauk Design Solution and dated March 29th, 2021. Britton Bistrian presented for the applicant. The original CO from 2017 was for a 1,579 square foot, one-story frame, four-bedroom house with 1,068 square feet of decking. It's in the double dunes. And any construction in this area is going to be disruptive to the natural characteristics of the area. It's a highly constrained property. And I struggled a little bit with this application because the Britton Bistrian stated there's no area where the setbacks can meet 100-foot setback from wetlands, which is the challenge because the property, there are existing structures there. So with that as a qualification, the house itself is, for lack of a better way to describe it, kind of a U shape. It has a carve out on one side that they want to enclose and construct a 234 square foot, one-story addition, basically to fill in what is now deck, which will make the house more functional. So as far as the addition is concerned, I think I'm going to approve it, as well as the decking, which it's already existing decking. They basically want to reconstruct the decking. And it's impossible, as I said before, to achieve setbacks of 100 feet. I'd like to hear what the other board members have to say about the outdoor shower. They had proposed some changing in the wood decking on the landing on the northwest corner, alongside the shower and walkway on the east side. All of it is already disturbed. There's already a shower there. So according to the planning department, they were minor improvements. Certainly with respect to the walkways that they propose, I think, as I said on the prior application, I think walkways prevent further harm to sensitive properties, in the sense that they concentrate where people are walking and mitigate damage. Now, with respect to the, they're offering significant mitigation in the form of a new IA system, and they've also agreed to revegetate a certain area between, can't read my own handwriting, the south lot line.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in light of the IA system, I'd be inclined to approve the shower because it's already in a disturbed area. But again, I'd like to hear what other people have to think. I can go through the standards if you want. The other mitigation were gutters and leaders. The property, the structure as it exists now doesn't have gutters and leaders, and the shower would have a dry well. That was not noted as part of the recommended project conditions, but I think it should be called out specifically that the shower would have a dry well. I think I'm not going to go through all the standards unless somebody wants me to.
No, let's go through it, and if we need to, we can do it. But Ed, you want to give it a shot?
Yeah, again, I'm going to agree largely with Member McGovern here. This, the variances they're looking for here all seem to be fairly minor. This is one of the big factors is how heavily constrained this property is. There's literally no place on the property, I think Britton basically mentioned that, where any work could happen that would not require a variance. So it's not like there's an alternative to where the work is being done. The TAM says in several places the proposed project is fairly minor change to a constrained property, that the changes are minor alterations to existing improvements on the property. And another point, the small size of additions coupled with the upgrade to the sanitary system causes this likely to meet the various standards. There are conditions. There's also the caveat that anytime we're dealing with a property that's this sensitive, we have to carefully consider whether or not any of these moves are worth doing and are worthy of our approval. I do think that the mitigation here, there's not a lot that can be done, but they did make an effort to talk about revegetation along that south line, which is something, and again, the gutter leaders is a very good point that was brought up by Member McGivern, and if the shower is approved, that they would have its own dry well, and that has to be specified. But I think that the other thing here is the IA system on a very small parcel. An IA system is something that we like to see. It's not the cure-all for every time someone comes to us, but we have a small lot where there's not a lot for them to offer back to us. There's not 300 feet in the back that we could talk about revegetating. There just isn't there. We have as a small constrained lot, and the asks are fairly modest. I think the 234 square foot addition, as was pointed out again, by Member McGivern, it's really, it fits in a spot that's already been over elevated decking in an area that's been disturbed. So the biggest ask here winds up being, as was pointed out, the shower. I think given what we're getting back here on this property in terms of a new ice system, when we try to encourage that as much as we can in these places, and the fact that this is an extremely constrained property, I'm looking to approve this application. Thank you. Denise?
Yes, thank you. As already stated, they're removing the existing deck and shed to replace it with a 234 square foot addition. The proposed addition is adding a foyer, extending the kitchen and existing bedroom 5 feet 6 inches to the north, partially over an area of existing walkway and in one of the most conforming locations. So I do feel this is in compliance with variance standards of 255-850. It will not cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. The requested variances are not substantial, and it cannot be achieved by some other method other than an area variance. It's in the most conforming location. The project will not have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. The wooden deck landing, the outside shower with a dry well, and walkway are minor alterations to the site. The IA system is being proposed in one of the most conforming locations. This will certainly enhance and benefit the site environmentally. This project does meet the variance and natural resource standards, and for these reasons, I approve the application.
Thank you. Harry?
Okay, so I
Oh, can I
agree.
just add one thing?
Sure.
I think as of the recommended conditions, I do agree that condition number 3, well, I think they should all be integrated into the decision. But condition number 3 regarding the revegetation plan for the area south of the residence, which has already been noted in a planning department sketch dated March 13th, 2023, should be a part of our determination.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow board members. Due to the constraints of the property, as already mentioned, I do feel that the decking, the addition, and the shower, which is basically going to replace a shower that's not in great shape today, are all minor updates to this property. And the decking at 54-foot variance is a little bit large, but again, the constraint to the property, and as stated earlier, the addition and all this work will be done 5 feet to the north side of the property. the most affected wetlands are down on the south side, and they are offering the IA system and the revegetation that is noted of 1,723 square feet of revegetation on the updated survey. And the only other thing they had increased the size of the parking area, also without an NRSP, I believe. So I am okay with the driveway remaining as it is now.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And all the project conditions as stated, yes, with the addition of the dry well for the shower. I'm approving this application in its entirety.
Thank you. I agree. I don't have much to add. I think it's actually a pretty good application. So with that, I think it meets the standards and I approve this application. Council, good?
Yeah, with those 4 conditions?
With the 4 conditions, yes.
Dry well.
Shower. Yeah, the shower needs a dry well, but as far as my assessment on the shower, I believe it's in the most conforming location. It's also right next to the leaching field, which.
There were five conditions on the
That makes it
tab.
even more conforming.
If I understand, okay.
It's 5, so 6 would be the shower.
Okay.
Dry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, outdoor showers need dry wells. All right, we now go into other decisions. We have Drew Damon at 20 Post Street in East Hampton, Suffolk tax map number 300-138-2-12.1, and it's to allow a swimming pool to remain 23.7 feet from side yard lot line where 30 feet is required. This reduces the required setback by 21%.
Yeah, so I'm covering this one. Well, then these next 2 for Morgan tonight. This is a request for a variance without a hearing. There was a swimming pool constructed. They had originally proposed it in a building permit to be in a conforming location. I guess after some conversations with the building department, there was some confusion, and it was constructed 23.7 feet from the front yard where they're supposed to be 30. So the maximum allowable for a variance without a hearing is either 25% or 10 feet. So they're coming up close to the maximum of what would be allowed as a variance without a hearing, but it does conform to that allowance. And that's, which is why we're bringing it to you, obviously. So it's an as-built swimming pool variance from the front yard lot line.
What was the confusion? You said there was some confusion?
I'm not sure. I don't know the specifics on it. I just know that there was some sort of a conversation and there was some sort of confusion, obviously, since it was constructed within front
I'm
yard.
saying the conversation was between the applicant and the building department? Is that the
As I
confusion?
understand it, yes.
Okay, and
Yeah, but
they,
usually I'm not sure if I buy that. The building department is very clear. They want the pool setbacks staked out prior to even getting a building permit. So I think it's just an error. We can chalk it up as that, but I do agree that we should let it go to variance without a hearing. Does everybody agree with that?
Just have a question. When did the variances without a hearing get to be up to a 25% variance? Is that always?
It's always been, it's
I've
either,
never heard that until
yeah, it's
recently.
25% of the required setback or 10 feet, whichever is less.
Right.
So usually when it's a side yard setback, it's a very small number because, the setback requirement is less, but in this case, it's a front yard, so.
And case law 2 defines
25%?
25% or less as minor variances.
Thank you. Good question. Do we need a motion on this? Yes, I guess we do need a motion on this. So therefore, I'll make a motion for Drew Damon at 20 Post Street, East Hampton, Suffolk tax map number 300-138-2-12.1 to allow this to proceed as a hearing without
variance with a hearing.
variance without a hearing. There you go.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
Thank you. Next, we have Henry Swamanen at 215 Essex Street in Montauk, Suffolk tax map number 300-28-1-31.1, and to install a generator and underground propane tank within 150 feet of wetlands.
Sure. So this property, there's some significant slopes here, a lot of vegetation on the slopes, however. They're proposing a buried propane tank and a generator on the north side of the residence, just over 100 feet, but it does meet the setback from wetlands. We're comfortable with it given the significant amount of buffer between the two structures, or not between the structures and the wetlands. Very minor as well. I buried propane tank and generator. It's not a large square footage of area, just, two minor structures.
So is this a administrative? What is
Yes,
this?
administrative, natural resource.
Okay.
Permit. Sorry.
Where is this on Essex?
215. Where,
How far down is that?
On the corner.
Echo Place. Echo
I can
Place.
pull up.
Is that
the,
that's an unopened?
Are you saying the topography is such that it's flat where they're proposing to put it?
It's relatively flat around the house. Yes.
Yeah.
But you mentioned there was a steep slope there. I was wondering what that, is it
Yeah,
on the
that's right.
east side?
Can you see? I don't know if you can see the topography line.
Yeah, we
from
can
here,
see
but
it.
these- These are your
That's what I'm
topo lines.
asking.
It flattens off a little bit down here, but it's pretty steep up here, and then it flattens off around the house itself.
Yeah.
I believe.
What's the next open road near it? Do you know? This isn't the new house that went up. Is it
I don't know.
modular?
To the south is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
Never heard of Echo Place.
That-
Mm.
that's why,
Elwell is to the south.
Who?
Elwell.
Elwell.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is a hill. Go down Elwell.
We okay with allowing it to go administratively?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So somebody can make a
For
motion.
Henry Sormanen at 215 South Essex Street in Montauk, tax map 300-028-1-31.1. I make a motion to allow this application to be processed administratively.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. Next, we have 404 Old Montauk Highway, Suffolk tax map number 300-22-1-4. The applicant requested and was approved for the record to remain open until July 13th, 2023 for additional submissions. The board has received correspondence from from a constituent asking for an additional week until July 2023 to respond to a submission by the applicant. This is interesting.
Well, if you remember,
This is July this is from July 13th to July 20th. From a constituent.
They want to write a reply.
it was one of the other attorneys that was there.
But this is Town of East Hampton v. applicant. I'm not sure how to handle this.
Well, what I remember from the hearing though, is that they asked for a month, right? To do updates. And we stated at the hearing, we'll do the month, but that included time for the applicant and the other constituents that were there at the hearing representing someone else that was supposed to get
Okay,
done in that
if
month.
we approved it based on that premise.
That's what was said at the hearing.
Okay, all right. So go ahead.
We're going to approve the,
Yeah.
Okay.
Is
Then in the
record
case,
open?
I mean, it's a reasonable request.
Yeah.
So we can make that decision based on reason.
okay. Then in the case of 404 Old Montauk Highway, Suffolk County tax map 300, and there's nothing there. Okay.
Dash 22-1-4.
Will help.
I'd like to make a motion to keep the record open, to keep the record open until July 20th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Concur.
Okay, and I concur. Thank you. Next, we have our minutes approval of June 6, 2023.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the draft minutes of June 6, 2023 for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Concur.
I'll concur.
I concur. Thank you. We have two resolutions tonight. One is Glen Bear at 24 Coolidge Road, Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-68-12-11. Council, you want to give us a brief on that? I'm only kidding. I think we can handle this. All right, give us, whose case was this? Terry?
Oh, Bear
Just
was
give us a
mine.
brief synopsis.
Well, okay, you recall this is an unimproved lot currently, and wanted a new development of the property, and this was the one where wetland appeared recently, was created recently due to probably development around the neighborhood, and there was extreme grading and sloping on the property. And this was a unanimous denial of the project.
Nope, you can make a
Yeah, I'm
motion.
not even going to remember mine.
You can make a motion.
Oh, okay. Make a motion in the application of Glen Bear at 22 Coolidge Road in Montauk, tax map 300-068-12-11, to approve the resolution as written.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. Next, we have James DeMartis at 18 School Street in Springs, Suffolk tax map number 300-80-3-18. Denise?
This was a garage shed in Springs on School Street. It was a unanimous approval. I believe it was with the side yard. It was an error made by Mr. DeMartis. We received correspondence from neighbors that they were not really having a problem with this request, and it was approved unanimously by the board.
I make a motion.
I make a motion in the matter of the application of James DeMartis, 18 School Street in Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-80-3-18. I make a motion that we approve the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. That concludes our meeting for June 13th. Vice Chair, you want to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals work session for June 13th, 2023 at 7:36 PM.
Thank you.
Second.
Concur.
But nobody